All right, so in this video, we're going to learn how to solve quadratic equation using quadratic formula. Quadratic formula, right? What we learned before, like, how to use, how to solve quadratic equation by factoring or using like zero product property. So now we're going to use quadratic formula. And let me have this example, probably the same one that I used before for solving by using factoring. So x squared plus 5x plus 6 equals 0, right? Now we know, like, by using factoring, which is going to factor here, and it's going to be like x, and we learned, like, we need to find two values whose product is 6 and whose sum is 5, and we found, like, it's going to be a positive 3 and positive 2, and at the end we found, like, x equals negative 3 and x equals negative 2 will be the answer. See, this is by using like quadratic, by using factoring. Now, we want to use the same example to use quadratic formula, right? Well, first of all, we need to know what is a quadratic formula here. So let me just erase this because that was from using different method here, all right? So let's use like quadratic formula here. All right, so we have, no, quadratic formula is when we have, so it's going to be x equals negative b plus or minus b squared minus 4ac over 2a. Now this is called quadratic formula, and that's what we're going to use to find the solution, right? B squared minus 4ac is called the discriminant, and we're going to learn this one later. That's the one we decide how many solutions we're going to have. We may have one solution or two solutions or zero solution, right? So based on the value of b squared minus 4ac, which is inside the root, right? So that's the one will decide to tell us how many solutions we're going to have. So first of all, let's find a and b and c. So this is the first step. You need to find a and b and c. As you can see here, now let me write this one clearly here. Let me just write this one here clearly, right? So let's have this one here next to a squared plus b squared plus bx plus c. So we're going to have a squared. So we have like x squared plus 5x plus 6 equals 0. That's the one I want to solve. So I need to find what is a, what is b, what is c. As you can see here, we have 1. So a is 1, and b will be 5, and c will be 6 here, right? So if I want to use a quadratic formula here, so I can just like substitute a by 1 and b by 5 and c by 6, right? So it's going to be like x equals, so x equals here, so it's going to be, we know that b is, it will be 5, so it's going to be minus negative b, negative 5, plus or minus, and we know that b is 5 is going to be 5 squared minus 4 times a, which is 1, and c is 6, right? So it's going to be 6 here, over 2 times 1, right? So it's going to be x equals negative 5 plus or minus, well, 25 minus 24 over 2. So that would be negative 5 plus or minus, and 25 minus 24 is 1, and we have a square root of 1, and we know that square root of 1 is just 1 over 2. So as we can see here, we have like two solutions here. We have x, the first solution is going to be like negative 5 minus 1 over 2, which is going to be, which is going to be negative 6 over 2, and that would be negative 3. That's my first solution. And the second solution is going to be negative 5 plus 1 over 2, which will be negative 4 over 2, and that would be negative 2, right? Which would be a negative 4 over 2, which is going to be negative 2. So we have two solutions here. We have negative 3 and negative 2. So this is how to use quadratic formula, and we learned before that how to use factoring. We found the same. We found the same answer. All right. So we have another quadratic equation here. We have 2x squared plus 4x minus 6 here, right? So well, we can use the same thing. We need to find a and b and c. Just to remind you that the quadratic formula is going to be it's x equals minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a, right? So we need to find the first step. We need to find what is a, what is b, what is c. So we know a is going to be 2, and b will be 4, and c will be negative 6, right? So we can just apply it here. So we're going to have x equals, now a is 2, it's going to be like negative, b is 4, it's going to be negative 4, plus or minus, b squared will be 4 squared, minus 4 times a, which is 2, and c will be negative 6, over 2a, we know a is just like 2, right? So we're going to have, all right, so we're going to have negative 4 plus or minus, and we know that 4 squared is 16, and negative 4 times 2 times negative 6, that will be positive here because negative times negative is positive, and 4 times 2 is 8, and 8 times 6 will be 48 over, and 2 times 2 will be 4. All right, so we have x equals negative 4 plus or minus. Now 16 plus 48 is going to be 64, and here we have over 4. Now we're going to continue here. We know that, so we have negative 4 plus or minus, and the square root of 64 will be 8, right? And over 4. Now, as you can see, we have two solutions. Again, inside the root is 8, and 8 is called the discriminant, which is b squared minus 4ac, is greater than 0, so we're going to expect to have two solutions. So we're going to have the first solution is going to be negative 4 minus 8 over 4. And x equals negative 4 plus 8 over 4, right? So the first solution will be x equals, now negative 4 added to negative 8 will be negative 12 over 4, which is x equals negative 3. That's my first solution. And the second one, I have negative 4 plus 8 will be 4 over 4. And we can simplify them. We're going to expect we're going to have 1. So my solutions to this quadratic equation using quadratic formula will be negative 3 and 1.